Imagine a man who had it all: immense wealth, a loving family, and a life devoted to God. His name was Job, and he lived a life many would envy. But what if I told you that, in the blink of an eye, this man lost everything? Imagine losing your possessions, witnessing your children tragically die, and then being struck by unbearable pain. How would you react? Job found himself in this exact situation, and even as everything crumbled around him, he made a decision no one expected. His friends, speechless in the face of such suffering, sat silently by his side for days. But what happened next? What did Job do when confronted with such overwhelming pain? And, more importantly, what does this story teach us about faith, suffering, and the inexplicable? Stay with me, because Job's story is not just about loss. It's a profound mystery that reveals something much greater. In a remote corner of the vast desert lived Job, a man whose life seemed blessed beyond earthly measures. His possessions, which included vast flocks and numerous servants, reflected an immense wealth. Even more valuable, his reputation as a pious man echoed through the lands of Uz, earning him respect and admiration from all who knew him. Job's true wealth, however, lay in his heart filled with faith and his unwavering devotion. Among neighbors and acquaintances, it was common to hear that Job's prosperity was a direct blessing from his intimate relationship with the divine. He not only followed the precepts of his faith with rigor, but also extended generosity and justice to those around him. His home was always open, and his always well-stocked table was a symbol of his hospitality and selfless spirit. Interestingly, Job's story could inspire anyone to reflect on their own life. Imagine, for example, a modern businessman who, upon reading about Job, decides to adopt a more ethical stance in business, seeking not just profit, but also the well-being of his employees and the community. This change in attitude could undoubtedly improve the atmosphere of his company and the lives of those who work with him. Besides tangible riches, Job was blessed with a large family, composed of 10 children, each raised under the attentive and loving eyes of a father who valued morality and character above all. The gatherings and festivities they organized were famous, and joy and laughter were constant presences in his home, making the atmosphere of his residence almost heavenly. It is said that the true measure of a man is not in how he enjoys his moments of comfort and prosperity, but in how he faces challenges and adversities. Job, until then, had lived a life almost without trials, but the real test of his character was on the horizon, a test that would come in the form of unimaginable loss and pain. This scenario makes us ponder the fragility of our own luck and the strength found in faith. Thus, the narrative of Job's life unfolds as a prelude to future events, where his faith would be tested in ways few could endure. This context serves not only to admire his past fortune, but also to prepare us to understand the magnitude of his future resilience. The story of Job teaches us to value what we have, while we prepare for the misfortunes that life inevitably brings. Calamity struck Job's life without warning, a series of disastrous events that seemed nothing less than a cruel test of fate. On one terrible day, messengers arrived one after another, each bringing worse news than the last. First, his flocks were plundered, then a fire consumed his servants, and finally, a storm devastated the house where his children were celebrating, taking their lives. The news of his children's loss was the most devastating blow for Job. Each child he had raised with love and devotion was ripped away in an instant, leaving a void that no material good could fill. Job's pain was palpable, a fog of sadness that seemed to darken the midday sun. In the midst of his tragedy, Job found himself facing an abyss of despair and suffering, but his reaction was extraordinary. Instead of succumbing to anger or bitterness, he chose resignation. He tore his clothes, a traditional sign of mourning and desolation, and shaved his head, another profound expression of his deep anguish and sadness. Job's loss is a mirror of the adversities faced by many throughout history and in present times. Imagine someone who has lost everything in a natural disaster or a tragic accident. The lesson here, exemplified by Job, is resilience and the strength to continue, even when all hope seemed lost. This example can serve as comfort and inspiration for those facing insurmountable losses. Job's reaction to his suffering challenges us to think about how we react to adversities in our own lives. In moments of loss, can we find the strength to move forward, preserving our integrity and faith? Job shows us that even in the face of extreme suffering, it is possible to maintain composure and dignity. Thus, the narrative of Job's suffering is not just a story of loss and pain, but also an invitation to reflect on the human condition. He teaches us about the impermanence of earthly things and the importance of faith and perseverance. And, although Job was at rock bottom, his story was far from over. For his journey through suffering prepares us to understand the complexities of the accusations that would come from his friends. Faced with colossal loss, Job's response is emblematic of a faith that transcends human understanding. Despite the piercing pain and desolation surrounding him, Job chose a path less traveled by most. He did not blame God for his adversities. This gesture, tearing his clothes and shaving his head, symbolized not just mourning but also a deep respect for the divine designs, even in the darkest moments. Job's stance in the face of suffering is a lesson in dignity and resilience. Instead of turning against his Creator, he prostrated and worshipped, an action that confuses many but highlights his unwavering faith. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." These words resonate as an echo of submission and acceptance. Job's decision to maintain his integrity in the face of misfortune is a powerful example for anyone facing trials. Think of someone who has lost a loved one or gone through a severe financial crisis. The way Job faced his suffering can serve as inspiration, showing that despite everything, it is possible to maintain faith and integrity. Job's response to suffering is an invitation to introspection about our own reactions to adversities. He challenges us to question, are we quick to blame others or circumstances, or do we seek to find peace and purpose even in pain? The story of Job offers a rare and valuable perspective on how to face suffering with grace and faith. Although Job remained firm in his faith, the story does not fail to show his humanity. He mourned deeply, expressing his pain in a visceral and authentic way. This balance between the honest expression of suffering and the maintenance of faith is a crucial aspect that teaches us about the complexity of the human spirit. Therefore, Job's saga in suffering is not merely about adversity, but also about the strength of the human spirit in the face of the inexplicable. He teaches us that, even in the darkest hours, our faith can be a beacon that guides not only ourselves but also those around us, illuminating paths through the example of resilience and hope. At the height of his ordeal, Job's wife emerges as a central figure, offering a perspective that strongly contrasts with her husband's stance. While Job chooses resignation and faith, his wife, devastated by the sequence of disasters, suggests a radically different path. "Curse God and die," she says, expressing a despair so deep that it reflects the anguish of someone completely overwhelmed by pain. Job's wife's proposal is not just a challenge to his faith, it is also a vivid portrait of human fragility. In moments of extreme pain, the temptation to give up everything one believes in can seem like the only way out. This advice, though shocking, is a reflection of the emotional breaking point that suffering can provoke in any of us. Considering the advice of Job's wife, we can reflect on how different people react differently under pressure. Like her, many may feel compelled to abandon their principles in the face of insurmountable adversities. This reaction is understandable and further humanizes Job's narrative, showing that not everyone possesses the same capacity for endurance and faith. Job's rejection of his wife's advice is emblematic of his exceptional resilience and fidelity to his spiritual values. This choice illustrates the importance of maintaining integrity even when circumstances suggest otherwise. It can serve as inspiration for those facing moral dilemmas, encouraging them to remain true to their values, even when this seems to be the most difficult path. The dialogue between Job and his wife offers a powerful lesson on support and challenges within family relationships during times of crisis. This example can be especially relevant for couples facing difficulties. showing that mutual support, even in disagreement, is crucial for overcoming the darkest moments. Thus, the advice of Job's wife not only expands the understanding of his suffering, but also sets the stage for future interactions with his friends. It is a prelude to the complexities of human relationships that will be further explored, underscoring the depth of the challenges Job would face on his journey of faith and redemption. While Job dealt with his affliction, 3 friends arrived to visit him, initially with the intention of offering consolation. However, the nature of their comfort soon turned into accusations, suggesting that Job's suffering was a direct consequence of unconfessed sins. This twist in the plot adds a layer of complexity to the story, showing how even the noblest intentions can be misinterpreted or misapplied. Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, represent the common perspective of the time, which saw prosperity and suffering as direct reflections of a person's moral character. Their accusations were based on the belief that Job, somehow, must have morally failed to face such calamities. This confrontation highlights an ethical dilemma that transcends cultures and eras, echoing in many social and religious contexts to this day. The interactions between Job and his friends offer us a glimpse into group dynamics in crisis situations. The situation serves as a reminder that support can sometimes turn into judgment, especially when explanations for adverse events are filtered through biases and assumptions. This part of Job's story is an invitation to reflect on how we offer and receive support in times of adversity. Job's defense against the unjust accusations is a demonstration of his integrity and understanding of his own life and faith. He vehemently denies the allegations, remaining steadfast in his innocence. This part of the narrative can inspire those who feel wronged or misunderstood to defend their truths, reaffirming the importance of staying true to one's principles. The story of Job and his friends also highlights the importance of empathy and true understanding in support relationships. It is a reminder that true comfort often lies not in offering solutions, but in sharing pain, listening to and acknowledging the other's struggle without premature judgments. Thus, the visit of Job's friends and their subsequent accusations not only complicate his journey of suffering, but also set the stage for a deeper exploration of his faith and character. This segment of the story leads us directly to Job's desire to confront God directly, seeking to understand the reason for his suffering, and how even the righteous can face unprecedented adversities. Faced with the unfounded accusations of his friends, Job finds himself at a critical turning point in his journey. In his response, he not only reiterates his innocence, but also expresses a fervent desire to speak directly with God. This expression of faith, combined with a demand for justice, underscores the complexity of his character and the depth of his spiritual crisis. Job challenges conventional notions of divine justice and retribution, arguing eloquently about the apparent prosperity of the wicked and the suffering of the just, opening a theological debate that reverberates through the centuries and remains relevant in contemporary discussions about the nature of suffering and divine justice. Job's defense is a manifesto of his integrity and his unwavering pursuit of an honest dialogue with the Creator. Imagine yourself in a situation where, despite all evidence to the contrary, you maintain your stance with dignity and ask for a chance to clarify the truth. Job does just that, elevating his narrative from a mere story of adversity to a deep exploration of faith and human resilience. Job's eloquence in defending his innocence is an example for all who feel wronged or misunderstood. He teaches us about the importance of speaking our truth, especially when confronted with accusations we know to be false. His story encourages reflection on how we defend our own values and beliefs in times of trial. Moreover, Job's stance against criticism can be seen as a model for how to handle interpersonal conflicts and misunderstandings. The way he communicates with his friends, despite their faults, shows a maturity and patience that many could aspire to emulate in their own lives, especially in moments of tension and challenge. Therefore, Job's defense of his innocence not only serves as a crucial point in his personal story, but also as a prelude to the divine intervention that would eventually come. This narrative sets the stage for a greater revelation about the nature of God and the universe, punctuating Job's saga with a powerful lesson about humility and the recognition of a wisdom that surpasses human understanding. After a long and tortuous debate about justice and morality, the climax of Job's story occurs with a direct divine intervention. God manifests in a whirlwind, a majestic presentation that symbolizes both the power and the mystery of the divine. At this moment, the narrative takes a turn where the vastness of God's knowledge and power is highlighted, challenging Job's and his friends' previous notions about reality and justice. The dialogue between Job and God is profoundly significant, as God not only responds to Job's inquiries, but also leads him on a journey of self-discovery and humiliation. God questions Job, using a series of rhetorical questions that reveal the limitation of human understanding in the face of the complexity of the universe. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand. This divine intervention serves to reorient Job's perspective, moving him from questioning to admitting his own ignorance. Job's humble and reverent response, "I know that you can do all things, no purpose of yours can be thwarted," reflects a profound shift in his attitude, marking his reconciliation with the circumstances of his life and with God. Besides Job's spiritual restoration, there is also a material restoration. God not only defends Job against his friends' unjust accusations, but also restores his health, wealth, and grants him even more than before. This dual restoration highlights God's faithfulness and justice, rewarding Job's patience and integrity. Job's final restoration can be seen as a symbol of hope and renewal. For those facing seemingly insurmountable challenges, Job's story serves as a reminder that adversity is not the end, but can be a prelude to a greater blessing if faced with faith and patience. Thus, Job's journey, culminating in his restoration, is a powerful metaphor for human life, where cycles of challenges and renewals are constant. He teaches us about the importance of maintaining faith and integrity in the face of trials, while we await the unfolding of greater plans that escape our understanding. After traversing Job's journey, from his initial riches to unimaginable suffering and subsequent divine restoration, it's impossible not to be challenged to reflect on our own ability to face adversities. Job teaches us that true faith is not one that is never tested, but rather one that endures through the most arduous trials. How do you face the challenges life throws your way? Are you able to maintain your integrity and faith, like Job, even when everything seems lost? I invite you to take these reflections into your personal life. How about starting to apply Job's patience and resilience in your everyday life? It could be at work, in personal relationships, or even in your most ambitious projects. And if you feel lost, remember the end of Job's story. A complete and expanded restoration. A reminder that sometimes our greatest challenges precede our greatest victories. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. That way you won't miss any of our content that will help you better understand the complexities of life and find inspiration even in the most difficult moments. Job's journey is an invitation to transform suffering into growth. Are you ready to accept this challenge?